Today we're going to be making Amish white bread. I've been making different recipes and I have found that I like this one the best so far. This recipe will make you 2 loaves, and about 1 loaf will get you through about a week's worth of time. I put about 110°F water from the tap, put in my sugar, and now I'm going to be sprinkling in some instant dry yeast. You can also use the rapid dry yeast. You'll just have to wait to see when your dough has risen to the appropriate stage, but you can use either or. Now, a lot of people use a whisk or a fork for this part, but I don't want to wash another dish, so I'm just mixing it with my dough hook just to kind of incorporate. And the reason I put the sugar in with the warm water is the warm water and the sugar are both going to help to feed that yeast and kind of activate it, give it a jump start. Now that I've mixed it in, I'm going to leave it there for about 5 minutes. And now that 5 minutes has passed, it's nice and foamy and we can tell that the yeast is good. I'm putting in salt into the water sugar yeast mixture on a stir speed, that's the first speed on the mixer, along with some vegetable oil. And after that, I'm going to incorporate 5 to 6 cups of bread flour. For this, I'm going to put on my guard because I don't want to make a mess in my kitchen. And I'm going to speed up the video just a little bit, but the mixer's still on the first speed. So for this, I did about 5.5 cups, and I let the mixer incorporate all of that dry flour in there. I'm going to check it just to see if it's sticky or in a good position for me to actually incorporate the gluten, or not incorporate, but to mix in the gluten structure. So I'm gonna feel the dough now, and it's nice and moist, but it's not sticking to my fingers, which is what we're looking for. I did knock down some of that flour from the actual hook top, and that won't hurt anything. So first power, now I put it on the second power, and I'm gonna let it mix for about 5 minutes on that second speed. What we're looking for is for that dough to get smooth and a little bit shiny. Not so much shiny, but you don't want it to look like it's ripping or tearing. It should be in like a nice, let's say, Play-Doh kind of look. Again, it shouldn't be sticking to your fingers. It shouldn't feel overworked. I did leave this, I got distracted in the kitchen and left this a little bit too long, which is why it's kind of sticky to the hook and to the bowl. But if you were to take it right out from that last stage, it would not be sticking to the bowl like this. From here, I didn't want to make my counter messy, so I'm holding it in my hand, and then I'm going to grease my pan or my same bowl, because again, I'm lazy and don't want to wash extra dishes if I don't have to. I'm using olive oil because that's just what I have next to my stove for cooking. You can use vegetable oil or any kind of oil you want, essentially. And instead of rolling this on the counter, I'm kind of folding it back into itself to create a ball. And then I'm going to put the top of that dough ball, see I flipped it upside down, in the oil first, flip it around, and then just kind of use my hand to coat that ball in oil. And that's going to help the dough to not create a skin or dry out on the surface. From here, I'm going to cover this. Some people use a towel, some people use plastic wrap. I tend to like shower caps because they're inexpensive and they stay on the bowl. I did the push test, which is essentially if you push your finger into it, it doesn't spring back quickly. It's ready. If it stays, it's not ready, and if it stays, it's overproofed. If it bounces back quickly, it's not proofed enough. I separated this into 2 loaves, like I stated earlier. I tend to stretch it out gently. This is sped up, so don't think I went that fast. I spread it out about the width of my pan. I did spray my bread pan, my bread loaf pan. Spreading it out, and I'm pulling and tucking at the same time. And now I'm kind of doing, I don't really know what the technique's called, but you roll it against itself on the counter and use the friction of the counter. I have my second loaf there, and now I'm covering these with a towel and letting them rise to about 1 inch over the top of the pan. I don't want to overproof them, and they will get some more height in the oven with that oven spring. I bake them at 375, I want to say for about 25 minutes. I'm now putting them on a cooling rack, And then I like to spread some butter on the top of them when they're still hot. It kind of keeps the top soft and not getting too hard for my daughter. Now that they've cooled a little bit, they're not cold, but they're warm, so they're not hot to my touch. Taking them out of the bread pans, I'm just letting them cool on the racks until they're completely cool. Once they've completely cooled on the counter, a couple hours I'd say, I put them in my bread loaf bags. I put one in the freezer. This is actually the next morning. I'm cutting into it for my daughter's sandwich, so I wanted to show the texture. So cutting off the heel of that, and then when I slice into it, you'll be able to see the nice crumb and how soft it actually is. And surprisingly, this is the first white bread that I've had that stays that nice soft crumb